So, oh, okay, very short. The euro is suffering. The euro is suffering. The euro is suffering from the 2 bits of news over that came out last night.
Yeah, well, it's going down to those Plaza Accord fibs, closer to 108.5 for a little.
Well, the news out of Europe last night was not good. I was kind of surprised the euro was higher, but that was reaction to other things, of course. So I didn't understand it. So be it. But the Irish election, if you notice, actually put a bid into the sterling because it was deemed to be another stain on the EU. And then, of course, this morning we got the news, or last night, that AKK, or as I say, AK-47, who's part of the Yashka Fisher Bider Meinhof gang, AK-47. She resigned, so she's done, and that's, another stain on Merkel. So there was really nothing good, coupled with bad, more, the Italian data matched the French and German data from Friday, so nothing was really good there. And that's kind of where we sit. So the euro weakness today does not surprise me, and we're making lows. I will remind everybody, tomorrow evening we get the Reserve Bank of New Zealand. I believe that's, what time? I think 8 o'clock Chicago time, but I could be wrong. That's good. And that'll be interesting to watch because the Kiwi, while weak, has actually been strong against the Aussie. So again, we'll watch for more discussion coming out of them about the Chinese situation. What have you guys been discussing?
Well, just, Jack had me going back to 1997 and 8 and pulling out levels in the Kiwi and the Aussie.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So I did that this morning.
Yeah.
And basically, it's all tech. It's the semis, ORH Day, NXPI, NVIDIA. We identified that early, and it just, that rallied $10 right out of the gate. Apple, it's the same playbook, same, it's all the AI names that are just going.
Yeah. It's 7 o'clock Chicago time tomorrow evening is the RBNZ. There's expected to hold rates at 1%. I think that's a consensus. I think they're actually going to cut because of the strength of the Kiwi against the Aussie, and some fears developing, and that'll put their interest rates equal. They'll both be at 75 basis points on the overnight interest rate. So I'm actually looking for them to cut.
Have you looked at the daily pattern in Aussie Kiwi here?
Yeah, I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, I think you should.
Yeah, let's see. Well, there it is. Yes, I'm looking at it now. What do you want to tell me about it?
Well, I
you
just
put it at the bottom.
Yeah, well, it's trying to bottom here. The Aussie against the Kiwi, and it's an ORH day. I mean, it stopped at a good level. I don't know how high it can rally, but it's trying to.
Yeah, and the Aussie is much more vulnerable. So that's kind of interesting, as you know, much more vulnerable to China because they are like a supermarket for China. They have copper, LNG, natural gas, coal, steel, iron ore. They've got everything, where New Zealand is, not as a broad a spectrum of products, of raw materials that they sell to China. Of course, a lot of dairy and meat. So that would be interesting, but that may be signaling that they're looking for the cut, even though the consensus is for no change at 1%. So we'll see the way it acts after the fact, because if it were to break and then turn around and rally, then we know that they've been anticipating it. So that's about what I got on that. And of course, I thought the markets, I knew that they would turn around and rally today. I didn't buy them, but I stayed off the short side because they never really got that weak last night. And the news out over the weekend was really not good as far as the virus, unless somebody saw something I didn't see. So
no, I mean, the worst part is that they went right to where we wanted to buy them on Friday and never gave us a shot again while the U.S. was open.
Yeah, that's a good point.
4.5 level.
Yeah, that's information right there that they're ignoring this virus like that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Except, we saw it, except that the Canadian stays weak and the numbers out of Canada have been actually pretty good. The Aussie really doesn't respond. Copper, as much as everything else is there, copper's sitting here dormant, and we know oil is down another 78 cents as I'm watching it now. So the commodities still remain weak, and the peso's up. Actually, the ruble was interesting overnight. I actually traded the whole range, up and down. Maybe I should only trade the ruble.
You've lost your mind.
I know, but that goes with the territory. If I hadn't lost my mind, I'd be like the guy on the Modelo commercial says, a man of great interest. Of course, I've lost my mind.
That's funny.
I sat with 22 people this morning, and 18 of them I didn't know, all from different aspects of life. And I gave them all a copy of The Rotten Heart of Europe. And don't worry, they're going out. I just had 70 books shipped to me in Arizona, so I will get them out this week to everybody who went on Rotten Heart of Europe and requested it. And Pax got his too at breakfast.
I did. Thank you.
Yes,
I've already
you
started
did.
to try to make way. It's like reading Aquinas. It's like reading the Summa Theologica.
Well, okay, that's right.
It's not there. I mean, it is very dense.
Well, that's why you went to Catholic school, so that you could get an advanced degree in Latin and understand. You know what? And Bernard is absolutely, he goes to Mass every day. I know
Does he?
that, every morning. Yes, he does.
Wonderful.
And he's so well trained because he comes up with all these Latin phrases, and I'll look at him sometimes when we used to sit and talk, and I go, huh? He says, I know. And there's plenty of Latin phrases in the book as he brings down his deep historical knowledge. So, but I had interesting conversations, as I told you and Judd that we'll get to this, and I will brief you off record about conversations, because it is really amazing that people who've been very successful in life and who have wealth to protect really don't understand all that much about how this all works. So very fascinating. But they peppered me for an hour and a half, and it was really good, really good. And there are a lot of bright people sitting in that room. But I mean, the markets are totally ignored, except that the commodity markets really are not. They're still looking at this as a potential. And the interest rate markets really did not follow, right? They're totally opposite the equity markets.
The D's 20 and 21 euros, both of them have just looked great.
Yeah, they've held up all day. The 2 years held up. It's held up. The European, has held up. But again, Europe really took two hits. So it's going to be interesting. This is going to have to speed up Lagarde's timetable, because things are really up in the air. And let's see what Ireland does here. Now that Sinn Féin is back in the discussion. Crazy. Yeah, that was not expected. And again, the resignation of AKK, who was supposed to be the be-all and end-all of everything, and really she had to step down because, again, what happened in Thuringia by German is not good. Thuringia with, that's why she resigned, is because the CDU actually went in lockstep with the AFD in supporting the Free Democrats for the premiership of Thuringia. So interesting. And they were none too happy. Merkel was not happy with the regional party. So things are going to get quite interesting. And this is, again, another stain on Merkel. And now we'll see what Macron does. Does he view a further weakened Merkel as somebody he can beat on, or he's got his own problems, of course, as the unions in France are really not happy with the reform programs going in because they feel it's coming on their back. And of course, the yellow vests have been out a little bit, nothing like they were, but let's wait till nothing like Paris in the springtime for good demonstrations. So, yeah, and then of course we have the U.S. political situation, and I think that the S&Ps are getting some heft because the more the Democrats open up their trench coat, the better his poll ratings get, and they really need to get some shit together here. And when you have James Carville, writing op-ed pieces all over the place.
Yeah, a great article.
Yeah, and just beating on him, and not mincing any words. So they've got some real issues, but it plays to Trump.
Well, the other thing, Ira, was what the DOJ is doing with that Qualcomm suit.
Yeah, that's also interesting.
It's out of control today. All the U.S. chip companies are just going.
Yeah. Yep. So we got a lot of noise out there, and some of it is noise you better pay attention to.
A lot of noise in it. So here's my I guess I have a question about, and I know we've got completely different monetary policies from SARS in 03 when it took 10 to 16% out of the markets, depending on what market we're talking about, compared to to this. But for gosh sakes, we're at all-time highs in everything except for the Russell and mid cap. I know it's showing up in the commodities, and I suppose that's somewhat of a relief that there is still some logic to capital flow.
Well,
but
all the commodity indexes have just gotten hammered.
Yeah,
hammered, and they're still getting hammered. Yeah,
still getting
we talked about it. Yeah, still getting crushed.
It just doesn't make any sense, though, that we just keep rallying. Now, I just said to the traders in my group that thank goodness I'm long from the open. Thank goodness I don't trade, my opinions. I'd be driving Uber.
Right.
Instead, I'm long
Exactly.
for 27 point or 23 points, and I'll stay long. But I can't make heads or tails of it. Peter Quigley and I were talking about it earlier too in Judd's room. Just doesn't make any sense. Bonds are still hanging in there. Gold is strong.
Right.
And the equities are making all-time highs. It's ridiculous.
Gold really didn't perform as well as I thought, but I think it's getting bid on some of the crosses that we talked about. Gold euro again making new highs today, right?
Yes.
Against the Swissy, Ira, on a life of contract thing in the Swiss, it's unbelievable. It's almost
but it hasn't.
2012.
It hasn't made all-time highs. But the Yuan gold has, and the Yen gold has. Gold yen. Let me speak in that term because I hate when people reverse that. So gold yen and gold yuan, gold Aussie, gold Canada, gold. These are all, parked up at all time except the gold Swissy. But the Swissy's been getting a bid because of like today, that euro cross is getting hit, and the euro tried to rally against the Swissy, but as people began to understand the negative news out of Europe, and it is negative news. It now, it's amazing how the pundits went quiet after the Irish election, because it does give strength in the short term anyway, until we hear more, to the Brexit view. There's a lot of uncertainty in Europe. And that's why I say now Lagarde has to move up her timetable. She's really got to press hard if what I think she's going to do, she's going to do, but she better hurry because the disruption in Germany is growing. We got Bob from Kansas.
Robert, are you here?
Nope.
No, it's
Okay.
He's traveling.
she quit because the CDU has to start working with AfD a little bit, Alternative for Deutschland.
Yes. No, that's right. And that's what happened in
And Alternative for
North Korea.
Deutschland has to clean up their act and get rid of the far right moniker that the media's painted on them.
Well, that's right. That's right. But as I discussed this morning with these guys, because they asked a lot of questions, and there was a guy who actually does. I didn't know him. I just met him today, but he does UBS's real estate investment portfolio. And we were talking about Berlin because he's very involved in the German real estate market, which has been a very good place, by the way, for a lot of investors. It's something I blogged about back in 14 and 15, that just because of when you go to negative real yields, you have to start looking for asset classes. It's one of the things that keeps equity markets bid, because real yields are steeply negative. And now it's a question of, is the AFD picking up steam because they're anti-immigrant, which I've never given into. Yeah, there's always some of that, but it's a very small percentage. But there's a lot of people in Germany very upset because, again, the savers have been so heavily financially repressed in an effort to bail out all the debtors, that there's a political shift going on, and nobody wants to admit it.
And then the mass immigration that Merkel did, people are really pissed off about that.
Yeah, but I would say that kind of ran its course. But
I don't think so.
Well, I
don't think
talking about.
They're still trying to assimilate Turks from the 60s.
That's true, but the Turks have been in Germany for a long time because they were, of course, the major part of the guest workers and a part of NATO, which will also change soon because, Turkey and NATO, somebody better reevaluate that because it's got problems. And again, I say this: if they wind up in a really high level confrontation with Russia, and Russia and the Turks were to start, because they're very close in proximity to each other with a lot of weapons. Does the United States and the rest of NATO they have to come to the defense of Turkey against Russia under Article 5? So interesting. And when you look at Russia's
I think
stance
Putin's
in
too
crime,
smart to be. I think Putin's way too smart for that.
well, he's got some kind of game plan, but it's a way for him to really drive a wedge in NATO, because you're going to find out. You're going to find out what does NATO really, how far will they go? But it's the same issue in Taiwan. How far will the United States go to defend Taiwan?
Oh, God.
Do you go? Well,
I don't think
so. We all have our thoughts, but do you risk thermonuclear war if China were to make an active play? And I stress if. This is all hypothetical.
Hold on, Peter.
Yep.
Let me make a real quick point real fast before you jump on it, because I know that what you're going to say is going to be more interesting than mine. But there's UWE, who's from my group, just had made a comment in the room. Done with Merkel. Regards from Germany. And there's three or four other people, Ira, in my group from Germany that all basically feel the same way.
Oh, and listen, I've been a Merkel critic for a long time.
Yes.
So, yeah. And you know what? And I've argued, I know a lot of Germans, and I have a lot of readers of the blog from Germany, and we've gone back and forth, but they've come to accept that because Merkel's just bent too far. I think she ran into a problem when Sarkozy was the president of France, and they were so close they called it Merkozy. And then, of course, that's what they called it because, and Sarkozy bested her on a lot of things. Nothing more than Draghi as the president of the ECB when it should have been Axel Weber, because the ECB at that time needed a German. In order to placate the Germans and make them more comfortable with whatever needed to be done in Europe, as far as quantitative easing, they needed to have a German in charge. It would have been a much easier sell. And Merkel got bested and beaten badly. And then, of course, when Sarkozy lost to Francois Hollande, and then I asked, well, if you're going to take the names, are we going to then have Merde, which means shit in French? Because that's what I would have called it. Hollande, Merkel, yeah, Merde. Because they didn't do crap. And they're not doing crap now. You know, and Macron thinks he has the strong hand here. So he's always trying to play it like the Germans are marching to the French beat. And you can deny it all you want, but open your eyes and pay attention. So Merkel's in a very, very difficult situation.
Well, this is like Brexit spread into Germany. Who would have thought? That's what I see as beginning. I'm serious.
Well,
No,
I think Alice Vidal could have Merkel's job someday. She's the head of AFD.
I'm going to tell you what. If that's the case, if you think that, if there's a Grexit, and I'm not talking about the Greeks, I'm talking about the Germans, or Grexit, whatever we want to call it, it would be catastrophic for the global financial system. You know, that's why I always, I make I use the scene from Bronx Tales in the bar when the motorcycle guys come in. Because all this QE program under Draghi, this massive QE program, is to keep locking the Germans deeper into the situation where they cannot leave, because the world will be on Berlin's door going, do you understand, if you leave and pull the plug on this project, that it would result in a major financial debacle? And that's just a fact. Go ahead, step back and take a look. That's what we've gotten ourselves to. And and that's not hypothetical. It's got to resolve itself one way or another. And if it's not done with the creation of a Eurobond, please tell me how you really think this is going to end.
Well, that would be a reach, trying to explain, sort out Europe's problem here in 5 seconds in the future. I don't know, but
yeah,
there's going to be a reset. There's going to be a markdown, or something's going to happen somewhere like that. So, but not today.
Yeah, something has to happen. Again, all you do is have to look at Alexander Hamilton, because Hamilton had the same problem in the U.S., but the U.S. was a political entity before it was a financial entity. The Europeans have created a euro currency without really a political, without the in-depth political structure. And it's very difficult, because you have to have fiscal harmonization. There has to be one budget with one taxing authority. Maybe you can have, like sales tax and the state, like we do in the United States. But as long as everybody is on their own, and they are on their own, because they all have their taxing, which gives Britain an unbelievable leg up, because they can turn themselves into basically a Switzerland or a Singapore and become they have the financial infrastructure already. Yep. But if they were to cut taxes dramatically on foreign investment, they'll be like Ireland. And don't forget, that's what Ireland did. Ireland has a 12% corporate income tax, which the rest of Europe has hated them from day one, but they couldn't play with them.
There was a quid pro quo on that. Oh, yeah.
Exactly right. And maybe the quid just gave a little bit to the pro with the election.
So says here, the main problem in Germany is that we have money for everything and everyone, right, just not for our own people. Merkel does not work for the people. In addition, there is overregulation of the EU. That sounds like Alice Vidal would say.
It sounds like what the majority of Germans would say at this point too, I think. Isn't that the point?
I remember about a year or two ago, you said something about, or to the effect of, it's Angelo, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
I can't keep my damn mouth shut. Sorry.
That's okay. Let it rip.
you posed the question, like I said, a year or two ago, what pound of flesh would Germany extract from Brussels, right, in order to agree to a Eurobond?
I was
and
thinking
so far, I mean, in addition to fiscal agreement and all of that stuff, belt tightening, the only other thing I can come up with, and I think I mentioned this once before, and it might cause a lot of feather ruffling, all right, would be where Germany says, look, you want access to our checkbook? Then you have to let us negotiate our own trade agreements, because we need to do whatever it is we need to do to keep our checkbook nice and fat for you. And so far, that's like the only thing I can come up with. And I know that would create a mess, but it's all I can think of at the moment.
Well, it's a very interesting point, and we always have to come back to it, because there is going to be a negotiation. That's what politics is, right? You compromise. But so what's my give? Now, of course, what Brussels says to the Germans, and if you use there, I'm sure he's going to agree with this, is look it. You've gotten the benefit of a weaker currency, which has supported your export sector. You've done very well because you've been in the euro. So therefore, we expect you to pony up and step up here as that trade-off. But of course, the Germans will turn around and say, no, we made the hard decisions. Under Gerhard Schröder, we did Hartz IV. We stomped on our unions by promising them that we weren't going to move jobs to Eastern Europe in order for them to compromise on wages, and that was really what energized the rebirth of Germany after they spent massive amounts of money bringing the East into the fold. The original proposal was, of course, that they gave everybody in Eastern Germany 5,000 Deutschmarks. You know that, or more. So, and it was far more than necessitated, but they wanted to make sure that the East was getting comfortable. And they spent massive amounts of money on rebuilding infrastructure, and it came at a cost. And the Bundesbank was able to muscle the ECB, of course, to lower interest rates to such low levels in order to finance Germany. That's a fact. And the euro went down to about 82.5 cents, I believe was the low, while all that was going on. So the Germans have gotten a benefit, but the Germans will say, no, we paid a dear price. Our workers paid a dear price. Wages were frozen. You need to make the same decisions, and we're not going to finance your profligacy. But as every year goes on, and this was what Draghi was fully intentioned to do, it becomes harder and harder to break this apart. So again, when the negotiations start, what are the Germans going to get? What are they going to ask for? Because it's going to be negotiated away. It's just not going to happen because the cost, it's just not myself, but Otmar Issing, who I have respect for, is a very fine economist, wrote that piece in 2016, taken from the United States, no taxation without representation. And you can't just ask German citizenry to pony up to bail out the rest of Europe, because that's an act of fiscal stimulus. And nobody will answer this question when I ask it. That's fiscal stimulus. And maybe that's why the Germans won't be so forthcoming in spending the money, because they know they're going to take a huge hit in bailing out the entire project.
What do you think is keeping the Germans from using the German credit card for greater leverage with the EU?
We're not at break point yet.
Okay.
We're not at break point. And will the break point come? Now listen, I'm listening to people in the room who are from Germany who said they've had enough with Merkel. Well, let me ask you, where do you think you're going?
Vital.
Where's your next stop?
Yeah, vital.
A more centrist AFD. They never were as right as the media said. That was the establishment thing.
Well, when they started, they were exactly a response to the financial repression, and that was 2013 with those 5 economists and professors, economic professors, who started the AFD. And of course, as they started getting more traction, just like with the Tea Party. When you have something that's starting to be successful, it's amazing how many people will glom on, because people are looking to join something that looks successful. There's no question about it. It was the same with the Tea Party. Then the Tea Party kind of lost its way because they had so many different factions joining them. I think that's what happened with Black Lives Matter, by the way. Whether it's, because their first initial issue, of course, was on police brutality, which I would never deny. That's absolutely right. Blacks have borne the brunt of a lot of, very, 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 very questionable police harassment and profiling, and that's how they started. But I went to a couple of those gatherings at the Civic Center at the Daily Plaza, and when I saw who else was out there with them, I go, I support the movement against police brutality, but that's not what this is morphed into. We had the Palestinians, we had these people, we had those people. Everybody was gravitating to it because why? They were getting press coverage and were deemed to be somewhat successful. But they lost their way. Black Lives Mattered they lost that roadmap long ago because everybody gloms onto it. You got to be careful with that. That's what's happened with the AFD. But their initial thing was due to financial repression, and they sued in Karlsruhe, which is where the German High Court is, and they took the case to, of course, the European Court of Justice, which is one of the greatest oxymorons in the world, because all it is there to protect the European Union. Every decision protects the European Union. Okay, 95% I have to protect myself. 95% of the decisions are just generated to protect the European Union. But they're coming back with another case to the German High Court under the guise that they're violating the Lisbon Accord, which was the last treaty they put together that was supposed to, basically be an improvement over Maastricht. But these things are still bubbling and gurgling. When will they? I don't know. Right now, the market in the world is focused. They always find one more thing to focus on, whether it's an impeachment trial, whether it's Russia corrupted U.S. elections, whether it's I know it finds its way, and now we're saddled with analyzing the virus. But Europe will return to be at the center stage, and Lagarde knows it. Thank you. And Lagarde knows it. But we will see this play out. We'll see it play out in the European debt markets. But today's weakness in the euro, with the strength in the equity market, the euro should be outperforming the Swiss today, should be outperforming the yen, because the haven should be coming off. And it's the weak link, and that's because of the political issues over the weekend. Now we got to deal with tomorrow's election in New Hampshire. Who wins? If Bernie picked, I know it's a home game for him, but if he wins big, and and some of the others fall out now, how does that play out? There's a lot of balls in the air, as we know. We discuss them, and I go to PAX. PAX, I care not. I don't care whether the cat is white or black, as long as it catches mice. To quote Deng Xiaoping, the market showed you today that it wanted to go higher because its reaction to what took place over the weekend, as far as the virus news, should have sent it dramatically lower last night. Never happened. I really thought gold was going to open $20 higher last night.
I did too.
And when I watched it, I said, okay. And I was actually able to buy it. Well, I said, okay, this can't be totally over because I'm seeing other things. Oil can't get up off its, there were still other things really struggling. So, I said, okay, I can buy it here. And I was able to scalp $4 or $5 out of it. And now I'll watch and learn. But the questions are right. And when will it play out? Don't know. But the timetable has been speeded up. And we haven't even talked about Italy.
Well, the other thing that was interesting on the charts today Ira, is Crude and Yuan is just getting devastated. And it's
Yeah,
not over.
Yeah. Right.
Not over.
Right. Right. And people merrily go on their way. I'm sorry. I just don't see enough growth to be able to sustain future profitability. I just don't see it. And that's what, the virus is the virus. But I'll tell you, if it comes, then by my playbook, I should be buying emerging market currencies today, and I'm not, because I'm looking at this rally, but I should be buying emerging market currencies, and I should be buying different segments of the commodity world, and I'm not. I'm not going to jump in here, even as the equity market rallies. And I'll tell you the truth. Well, I always tell you the truth, so I don't like that qualifier. But today, as of an hour ago, I put in my order, BMO, and you can call it, and I liquidated my entire SEP account except for 2 stocks, Vodafone and Alliance Bernstein. Now, I'm not touting them. That's all I have left because I let them manage the portfolio for me because I wanted to see over the last few years. And today, I still have other stocks in my personal, that's a different, but I liquidated the SEP today. I could be wrong. This market may go another 10%. You know what? I'm not staying for the ride. And I told the guy who's my account executive who handles it, I said, okay, in the next few days, we'll put together a more aggressive interest rate portfolio, whether it's with preferreds or maybe some type of, I hate ETFs, but I'll have to look at them as long as they're not over leveraged and there's not a lot of crap hidden in there. But I'll be looking at that. But I made a decision today, and I've been in this portfolio with them for 3.5 years. Now I still have other stuff with them in a separate where my wife and my money is managed, and I don't have a lot with them. I did this as a way to see how this works, and they've been fine. I don't have a problem with them. They've been good to their word. They don't do anything without talking to me first. So it's quasi-managed. And I also will tell them when to buy. So I was putting in the buy orders over the last, and I really haven't bought anything, I can tell you, with them since Trump's election. Because I missed that opportunity that night. Because my strategy was to buy on the election. If he won, I thought the market would get crushed. But when it didn't get crushed for the following day or two, I just didn't reach. So I kind of left it alone. It's been a very complacent and low frequency vehicle.
The fact that you liquidated it, though, or liquidated the majority of it, I think is a great lesson for every trader, in that we get out when we can, not when we have to. And as we're talking about soon, with all these balls in the air, with all the brush fires, pretty soon everybody's going to have to.
Well, Matt, let's look at a couple of things here right now that you don't want.
All right. Well, I'm giving you the 2-minute warning.
Okay. You want to be long with a reasonable stop tonight because the VIX is right back into its 200-day again. And every time we get into these areas, we start grinding again. So you just had a massive risk-on deal. Be cautious.
All right. Thank you for saying that, Judd, because I just told everybody in my room that I'm long and I'm staying long. And I'm going to, my stop will be under 33.
Have an idea where you want to be out.
My stop will be under 33, maybe 38 in the SPOOs.
I'll offer up this caveat because I don't want people to misunderstand me. I'm still well invested in stocks, more so than I've ever been in my life. But I'm taking, and this is a non-taxable event for all the cynics. Well, that's why you're selling the stuff, because I won't get taxed for until I start taking the money down at 70.5 or so, or whatever the most recent laws are. So it's just a way for me to test the waters, and I'm not having a taxable event. So it's kind of an easy laboratory for me. So that's why I'm doing it. No more, because look I'm selling on the highs, which is anathema to most of my trading strategies. But I have my reasons. I still think that there's a lot of dry tinder to start prairie fires out there, to use the parlance of Mao Zedong. and it only takes one spark. And I think that there's just too much tinder. But that's, again, this is not an investment. This is not a trading. The way I trade will be totally different. So Pax makes is right. Long, it's the way you're supposed to be.
Yeah, but with our trading hat, that's an important distinction. With our trading hat, not with our investment hat. Yeah, you're right. And then maybe it is. Maybe with our investment hat, maybe so. But I mean, that's just the point.
Yeah. Exactly. Listen, how much higher can it go? I don't know. Every market has one top and one bottom. You pick them. I can't. I'm not that good.
Well, we have higher
I'm not
targets,
that good.
and I think they're going to hit them. So,
Yeah.
I think so too.
Okay. All right.
thanks, Ira.
We will spend more time. I'll let you know more about that other thing. Pax and Judd tomorrow will talk about what I told you we would talk about.
All right.
Okay.
There's nothing cryptic there. We're just doing a little yard work.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Maybe we'll fly out and have
All right.
breakfast with you. See you later.
Oh, I'm gonna have to pay for that fucking. Oh, sorry. Take care.
All right. See you later. That was great. Great way to end.